Humans are weird palindrome. Want to see something cool? Human friend Susan asked of the room at large when she came through the inner airlock. There was an amber-colored flurry of movement in the central perch tree as the winged left the exterior perches and sought cover in the inner compartments. 3 undulates eased under the surface of the rest pool without so much as a ripple. 5 Trisks sprinted up the ladders to a higher-level catwalk, putting them conveniently out of human friend Susan's line of binocular sight. Kursk suddenly found himself regretting his last promotion. If he were still a lowly sub-commander, he could have justified joining his subordinates on the higher levels, as it was being the ranking officer in the communal room meant it was his duty to determine if the over-enthusiastic biologist had brought back anything particularly horrific from her rounds. The quarantine protocols should have prevented any such thing being dangerous, but this human in particular had proven quite adept at finding creatures, items, and... well, the only proper word for them was monstrosities that somehow did not meet the criteria for exclusion. "I would be very interested in seeing this cool thing," Kursk said aloud as he walked to the edge of his work surface. The human grinned and held up her datapad at about hip height. Kursakat felt the tension in the room drop dramatically. She had only brought back documentation. A few tentative sensory appendages poked out of the pool, paired black eyes peered out of the perch tree, and his traitorous kin edged to look down at what human friend Susan was showing him. He relaxed even further as he saw not the expected visual image recreation, nothing needed as many organs as the last carcass she had photographed had displayed, but only the standard data entry screen. He loosened his joints in relief and tilted his head to the side curiously. "I am afraid I cannot recognize any pattern in this data set," he said with an apologetic wave of his primary gripping leg. "Perhaps another biologist might—" "No! No!" she interrupted with a laugh. Kurshusket fought back a wave of bristling annoyance. "The metadata," human friend Susan went on. "Look at that data point. I think it's 7th from the bottom." "That is a data point," Kursk said. Human friend Susan laughed. "It's a numerical palindrome in the standard core font," she said. She looked at him expectantly. "What is a palindrome?" Kursk asked. "Oh!" Human friend Susan blinked and her head tilted as she thought over her response. "It means the written item reads the same in both linear directions." Kursk angled his primary eyes at the screen and tapped a knee joint thoughtfully. "I do not see the pattern," he finally said. "Human friend." Susan's face wrinkled and she turned the screen to look at it. "This one," she said, touching the beginning of the indicated line. "It is not symmetrical," Kursk pointed out. "Leave out the punctuation," human friend Susan suggested. "It is still not symmetrical," Kursk argued. "Not that I can see. It has an odd number of digits." "Well, just cut the central knot in half," human friend Susan pressed. The undulates were all heaved out of the water now, waving their appendages attentively at the interaction. The winged had taken to the air and were circling closer. Kursk stretched out a bit and waved the winged commander down. "What do you think, 15th click?" he asked politely. The amber winged hovered in front of the screen a moment. "I do not see this as symmetrical even with those specifications," he said. "The tails on the 3s alone would—" "But aside from the little stuff," human friend Susan interrupted. 15th click and Kursk glanced at each other curiously. "We do not see the pattern, human friend Susan," Kursk finally said with as much firmness as he could muster. "Well, it's there," human friend Susan said cheerfully. "I thought it was cool." "Well, Chow." She dropped the datapad in her hip pouch and strolled towards the kitchens. "Cool," Lips gently spoke from the pool. "She uses the same designation for a single data point with an unusual pattern in the metadata as she does for a container full of fungal reanimated insect corpses." Kursk stretched out his legs and returned to his workspace as the common room fell into the usual noisy discussion that followed their human's return. Humans are weird climbing the walls. "I do not think I would be able to explain it scientifically," Twistunder observed as he nuzzled into his companion, "but I think I understand the allure of these indoor combustion chambers to the humans." Roll slowly gave a lazy hum of assent and lifted a sensory-rich appendage to absorb some of the radiant warmth spilling out of the combustion chamber. They were twined together in a shallow pool that formed a sort of raised center to the common room of the research base. The main lights had been dimmed in tune with the diurnal cycle of the planet, and the majority of the staff were spending the rest day sprawled over the furniture, either reading or composing messages for distant loved ones. Several human couches were arranged around the undulate's pool, all facing the circular stone contrivance the humans called the fire pit. A vent hovered over the pit to guide the fumes and smoke out of the common area, and various steel levers hung on the side for when the humans felt the mysterious urge to prod at the flames. Twistunder's musings were cut short as one of the humans in the shadowy reaches of the room tossed aside his book and directed a resentful glare at the large bay of windows that comprised the south arc of the structure. Twistunder mused over the view. One of the massive storms, the kind that were unheard of on his planet, was whipping the forest outside into a frenzy of movement. The trees, each of which he knew to be several uns in diameter, were bending and dipping like so much algae. Twistunder supposed he could sympathize with the frustration that caused the human to drum his fingers on the arm of his chair. Finally, the human produced a wordless gust of air and snapped to his feet. The human paced back and forth several times and suddenly made a run at the wall. "Human friend Susan?" Twistunder asked after a moment. Rolls sourly grumbled as Twistunder had to pull away to form the words. "Sup, lil' bud?" human friend Susan asked before immediately breaking into a yawn. "What is human friend Red doing?" Twistunder asked. Human friend. Susan blinked slowly at him, and Twistunder lifted a gripping appendage to indicate the path the human was taking. Human friend Susan swiveled her head slowly and focused on the other human. Her face went slack for a moment as her eyes tracked his course before breaking into a wry smile. "He's climbing the walls, Twist," she said with a laugh. "I did not think this architecture allowed a human sufficient purchase to climb the walls," Twistunder observed. "Neither did I," human friend Susan agreed. "But it is storming, you know." She indicated the window with a nod of her head. "I was under the impression that storm weather sent mammals into a torpor-like state," Twistunder said. "Sometimes," human friend Susan said. She winced as the other human reached the ceiling and almost fell from his perch before moving on to the next one. "But keep a human cooped up too long and they do start climbing the walls," she concluded, turning back to her book. "I have heard that phrase," Rolls slowly observed. "However, I thought it simply a figure of speech." "Well, now we know," Twistunder said. "Human friend Susan, I believe the fire needs poking." Humans are weird, working through it. "Just attach the replacement sensor and we'll be on our way," 16th Sister said as she examined the data in front of her. Her human partner gave a grunt in reply that she had come to learn meant confirmation of her order. He ambled over to the sensor tower at the edge of her perception, and 16th Sister tilted her head to absorb the atmosphere. Her frill flicked in unease and her antenna curled a little tighter. She did not like being this exposed. The thick ground cover spread out from their open transport in every direction. The rustling foliage blended with the sky completing the pod, but it was so big, so far. 16th Sister clamped her frill to her neck and drew in a deep breath. Brother Unicus assured her that humans could see for kilometers in clear air, that the joining of the sky and flat land was not so much a pod, but a great dome. He said that he loved the sensation. He called it Big Sky Country. Her thoughts returned to her partner as something made an alarming clacking sound. "Brother Unicus?" she asked. "Is the assembly going well?" "Yeah, no," Brother Unicus said. Before 16th Sister could ask for clarification, Brother Unicus snapped out a profanity and dropped the sensor. "Are you injured, Brother Unicus?" 16th Sister demanded, leaping out of the transport and dropping her datapad on the seat. "Not exactly," Brother Unicus said as he attempted to flex one of his hands. "Your hand!" 16th Sister clicked in shock. "Yeah," Brother Unicus muttered, glancing to the side. "It is twice the size of your other hand," 16th Sister said. "I got stung," Brother Unicus stated. "When did the sting occur?" 16th Sister demanded. "Hold a moment. I will get the first aid kit and the datapad." "It's no big deal," Brother Unicus assured her. "It happens. I don't react bad to that species." "When did the sting occur?" 16th Sister asked again as she pulled up a medical report form. "About 8 o'clock this morning," Brother Unicus stated. Her frills snapped out and 16th Sister tilted her head to focus on her partner. "You have been experiencing this reaction," she observed slowly, "for nearly 6 hours?" "Well, it was slow to get started," Brother Unicus said with a shrug. "Didn't get bad till about an hour back." "Get in the transport," 16th sister said, barely able to keep her voice in the low human rangers. We gotta finish. Brother Eunuchus pointed at the half-disassembled sensor network. 16th sister bent to snatch the fallen sensor up and stalked up to the human. She arched her legs, flared her frill, and extended her antenna. Even at full extension, her antenna tips barely reached his chin. I am the senior ranger, she said. Get in the transport and begin filling out the injury report. But, Brother Eunuchus began. Survey Corps Ranger Stephen Cole, she snapped. You will follow medical protocol. At the sound of his full designation, Brother Eunuchus twitched and grabbed the datapad, then scurried towards the transport. 16th sister sighed and quickly put the sensor tower into standby mode. She leapt into the transport and activated the engines. What were you thinking? She demanded. I figured if it didn't get too bad, I could work through it, Brother Eunuchus said. 16th sister curled her antenna at him sternly. Medical report, she snapped. Now. Humans are weird illicit smuggling operation. I apologize for interrupting you, First Mother said, uncurling one antenna to get the attention of the Trisk on the other side of the hololink. But could you repeat the accusation? You subordinate has been running an illicit smuggling operation, Tisk Kurt repeated slowly and carefully. Second brother, First Mother said, her frill limp with shock. It is hard to believe, Tisk Kurt said with sympathy in the set of his 8 legs, especially of such an experienced ecologist. He is always so careful about contamination, First Mother said, oscillating her head in confusion. And he knows the regulations so well. Has he given any defense for his actions? Eyes, Tisk Kurt stated. First Mother tilted her head to the side as she waited for the rest of the sentence. None came. Eyes? She asked, parting her antenna in curiosity. The Trisk commander slumped. Perhaps you should view the recording for yourself, he said. First Mother flicked her antenna in agreement, and the hololink dissolved and resolved into an image of Survey Corps Ranger, ecologist Stephen Bryce, second brother to his friends. He was standing in a posture of forced openness humans displayed when trying to convince another of the lack of danger in a situation that was clearly dangerous. In his hands he held a creature of slightly larger mass than a winged. And why? Demanded the recorded voice of Tisk Kurt. Did you risk contamination, subvert protocol, and endanger your position on this world in order to smuggle these creatures out to other humans? They're harmless, second brother interjected. To First Mother's shock, the Trisk actually interrupted the human. We have established that you do not have enough data to confirm that claim, Tisk Kurt nearly snapped. Why did you do it? The human seemed to struggle with the answer, and then finally lifted the creature so the camera focused on its face. The eyes, second brother said in a deeply earnest tone. Look at those giant, deep eyes. Oh, First Mother drooped as the beginning of understanding caused her frill to flutter in a mix of sympathy and irritation. Do you have an explanation? Tisk Kurt asked eagerly as the hololink switched back to him. I suspect I do, she admitted carefully. You see, when I was stationed with second brother, I was still only first sister. The Trisk commander waved a gripping leg for her to continue. My homing instinct hit me at full strength cycles sooner than I expected, she went on. So second brother and I had many conversations about mating age and sexual development, while I was waiting for transport to the garden my sisters had prepared for me, and he who would be the first father. Second brother told me many things about the similar human instinct codes. I hesitate to make an absolute statement. She paused to gather her thoughts. But that creature, she said, displays significant neonatal signals by human standards, and I suspect second brother might have been made susceptible to that by his, I believe they call it a biological clock.